So this is, I was going to do initially the tour of both my parents' lives, but my dad didn't really take any pictures of his life, so I just did my mom because, there's also a lot going on there. Easy to focus on one thing. So to get started, she grew up, or she was born in Kibos, Kenya, between Kibos and Kibigori, which is like down the road. She lived in between them, but she lived closer to Kibos. And so basically what I did was, for each location, I tried to make a video. And she wouldn't speak, so I decided to go ahead and do the voiceover and all that stuff.
The most vivid memory I have of Kibigori or Kibos was the country house that we...
One second. I'm just going to point out people as we go. Let that be.
Hit the X quickly.
Alright, so that's my mom right there. And this is whenever she came back to Africa.
There were 7 of us living in it. 7 people spread across 4 different generations, and we were all
That's her
living
dad.
together happily under one roof. The house was rather large at the time, and it was right next to a large river that was no more than 50 feet away. All around us was the farmland that my father used to grow sugarcane on. After harvesting it, he would use some of it to make a sweet called jaggery, and would sell the rest of it off to a sugar mill. My mother, on the other hand, ran a ration shop in Kibigori. It was located out of another house that we had there. My schooling was interesting. The nearest school was 2 miles away, and it was a large single-story building. There were 50 children from all different age groups, and there was a single teacher that taught us all. Eventually, this led to my mother deciding that we should leave Africa for India for me and my siblings to get a better education. The downside to this is that after this, I wouldn't see my father for 9 years, as he wouldn't be able to come with us to India since we still had our farm in Africa.
Let it be, alright? I watch what I watch on YouTube. Alright, so then after they left Africa, they went to somewhere called Vidyanagar. It's like, it's smaller town than what it was right now because India's like building up all their stuff. But when we moved there, it was small, and then, yeah, now it's grown to be something much bigger. Also, for this one, I couldn't get actual
We moved to
pictures,
Vidyanagar.
so I decided to just grab pictures from online and try to make them look cool, like black and white. I think I even missed one, so you'll see.
In 1965, when I was 7 years old, we lived in a house by a railway track. The house was an off-yellow 2-story bungalow. It was a non-gated or fenced community. This meant that you could go out and freely explore the town, but it might not have been as safe. I shared one room with my 3 other siblings, though it was never too crowded. The education system here was proper since it was a government-run school. I was only in the 1st or 2nd grade at the time, and it was interesting to deal with a new system that was so structured. My favorite thing about living there were all the lorries that you could find near my house. My favorite were a corn and peanut lorry, but my all-time favorite was a shaved ice lorry. I can only go there once or twice a month, but it was worth it each time. We ended up leaving in '68 due to financial issues and headed for Karamsad.
Garamsad is like a sugar land to a bigger city, which is called Anand. And Anand's like still a big town today, like a big city. It's not forever, but this is generally where it is. And just so you know, Gujarat, which is the state that it's located in, is the easternmost state of India. That matters.
We moved into my great-grandfather's house. The house was in the family for years and years, and my great-grandfather actually gave it to my younger brother. Nearly every weekend we went to the nearby pond to clean our clothes, and every week we went to the local mandir. The house was extremely small with only 1.5 rooms. The larger room in the daytime was our living room, and the smaller one was our kitchen. Once nighttime came around, we turned the living room into our bedroom, and all 7 of us slept in it. We left for Badran whenever my mom had to go back to Africa to renew her visa.
So that last picture right there, it's
Renew her visa.
it's something called the Sardar Patel Memorial, and if it's the same one that I'm assuming it is, so Sardar Patel was like an important figure in whenever like Gandhi and all that stuff was happening for Indian independence and all that stuff. And so I was talking to my mom about all this, and I can't say like he's like my great uncle or whatever because there's no like direct line, but like the place he grew up was the same street that some of my family grew up as well, like great whatever. And lots of times the families were the same when they lived in these little communities and stuff like that. So the chance that I'm related to him, the chance that they just lived across from each other, but it's cool.
Then you're related to Gandhi.
So that's the guy. It's like
Oh, to Patel.
yeah, our guy's name is Sardar Patel. He's like the right hand man. So it's like
To Gandhi's good best friend.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Badrun is just another small town as well. Yeah.
In Badam, we lived with our grandparents on our mother's side for 1 year. It wasn't a very good experience. My grandmother was actually my mom's stepmother, and she didn't like that she had to take care of us. This meant that she was very strict all the time, rarely kind. Once the year was over, we went back to Karamsad, where we were reunited with mom.
So that year, I guess she was telling me was particularly difficult because their dad wasn't already there, and so then her mom left to go renew her visa in Africa in case they needed to go back. So then they were living with like this mean-ish lady that was not very, well, I guess not very kind to them. And the video for this got corrupted, but I was talking to her. She said it's pretty much more the same living in Karamsad. Same sort of lifestyle and all that, so I didn't need to put anything here. I can just tell you that. They ended up leaving Karamsad and going to London because my grandma wanted a better life for her and my siblings, or her siblings rather.
The most exciting thing about moving to London was the fact that I was finally going to see my dad after 9 years, and I couldn't have been happier. We lived in a typical London house. On the bottom floor was a store, and on the top was where we lived. It was a bigger sized house than in Karamsad, so I was happy living there. I still had to share a room with my 3 other siblings, but it was a welcome change. Transitioning from India to London was surprisingly not difficult. Learning a new language was a pain, but in time I learned to speak English properly. School was very easy after I got past the language
That's her
barrier,
dad.
but before then it was difficult. I traveled 35 minutes every day on the bus,
She also
me
did
and one of my
modeling stuff,
sisters,
so-
since we were the only ones in high school at the time. The schools were completely different. The class sizes were small, and you actually went to the teacher instead of the other way around. The best part for me was lunchtime, where a fresh cooked meal was provided every day. The rules were very strict. No makeup, no earrings, and a uniform every day. It honestly felt like London was stricter than India. Regularly after school, we went to a newsagent, the corner store, where we would get a bag of chips and chocolate. Life progressed quickly in the city. Before I knew it, I had gone through several different jobs and had gone through a 2-year college. This is also the time I met my future husband. Our story is lackluster, no great romance or anything like that. The first time that I met the man, it was an arranged marriage situation. And although I turned down every man before him, I decided that he was a nice enough man to marry. Unfortunately, he had other plans and decided he didn't like my family enough to marry me. A few years later, while he was in America, he gave me a call, and before I knew it, I was on my way to America to be wedded.
Yeah, she said they got engaged over the phone. I was like, that's insane. Are you kidding me? Yeah, we met one time. It was all good. Then he called me back up, and I was like, yeah, sure, let's do it.
Any girl
What?
you want to get married?
He's married for how many years?
To America, yeah.
So, they didn't actually go to just Trenton. They were like Boise, and then New York, and Orlando, and Houston, all that stuff. But she was telling me it's all months at a time sort of thing. So I put Trenton as like the first place they came to, and that's where they got married and stuff. And then she kind of traveled around and whatnot. And a lot of the pictures are from their wedding because this is all I can find from that time period in our album.
I arrived in the States in '85. I got married and then immediately returned home, waiting for my husband to return. But unfortunately for us, he wasn't allowed entry back into the country. So I moved back to America in '86. At first I was hesitant, but I soon came to love the country.
Upside down.
The first thing I did was I traveled all around. I had so much freedom to travel that I went everywhere that I could go. The biggest shift I felt coming to America was the ease of tension that I experienced. I went through my fair share of hardships in London dealing with racism, but I found that in America I was accepted everywhere. I fully embraced this new culture and attempted to experience everything I could. I knew that this was a land of opportunity and decided that this is where I would raise my family.
And finally, here in Houston, we will not.
Finally, in '87, I moved to Houston, and a year later, I had my first daughter, and I knew that I found my home. We opened up a convenience store in Heights, and my husband went into work with Indian Wholesale. We made a life for ourselves. After 2 more years, my second was born, boy, and we moved into a new house where we would live for many years. Finally, 7 years later, my last son was born, and my family was complete.
That was me
At
fun.
times we struggled, but the loving care and support of each other got us through any tough times, and we survived and flourished here.
Yeah.